What do you own? Maybe a car, maybe a house. What else do you call yours? What about your beliefs, especially the ones about who you are and how you think others should be? What if you knew that everything you are attached to keeps you from happiness? What if you let go of your beliefs? Would that be heaven or hell? Join us and see if attachments can keep you in hell. This is Who Am I? Who am I?
Who am I?
Who? Our purpose is to awaken.
Who am I?
To awaken to absolute truth.
Am I?
Who am I?
Who?
Who?
Our purpose is to awaken to absolute truth.
Absolute.
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 Absolute truth.
Our purpose is to awaken. Are they one and the same? Absolute and truth. That's our purpose.
Who am
All right. Okay, today I think I'll start the show off with a story. Y'all want to hear a story?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's our story anyway.
Yeah. But this is the story. The story of Krishna and Arjuna. Okay, it's out of the Hindu tradition of the Bhagavad Gita. I never could say that word, but one of their scripture, one of their holy books, sacred books. Anyway, what happened was Krishna and Arjuna were going on a journey, and they didn't have any place to stay that night. They didn't have Holiday Inns back in the time, okay? And so they knocked on this rich man's house and knocked on the door and said, "We don't have a place to stay. Do you mind if we can stay with you?" And the rich man, was one of those Scrooge type of rich guys, well, all right, And so he said they could come in. So the rich man was eating dinner, and he just had his big, lobster steak and all that, eating real fine food. And he just let Arjuna and Krishna have, a piece of bread, okay? And then when it came time to go to sleep at night, what happened was the rich man had his nice, bed and stuff, and he told Arjuna and Krishna that they had to sleep on the floor. So the next day when it was time to leave, Krishna, put his hand on the rich man's head and says, "May you be blessed forever with prosperity." Okay? So the next night, what happened was they journeyed on, and they came to this poor man's house, knocked on the door. The poor man came to the door, and the poor man recognized there was Krishna. And Krishna is like, for those of you who don't know, it's like Jesus for the Christians, okay? Anyway, so Krishna, he said, "Please come on in," And so he was eating dinner. He offered his dinner to Krishna and Arjuna. Says, "Here, take my dinner. Here I got, whatever I got, you can eat, and I'll just eat the crumbs," okay? And so when it came time to go to bed that night, the poor man said, "Here, Krishna and Arjuna, you can have my bed, and I'll sleep on the floor." Okay? And so the next day when it came time for them to go, Krishna put his hand on the poor man's head, and the poor man, all he owned was a cow, okay? And he said to the poor man, "May your cow die." Okay? Yeah, John, like that. And so Arjuna went, like John went, "Huh?" Okay, and Arjuna, who was a disciple, and Krishna being the enlightened one, Arjuna said, "I don't understand. For the rich man, you said, 'May you live long and prosper.' And for the poor man, all he owned was a cow. And you said, 'May your cow die.' I don't get it." And Krishna said to Arjuna, that cow was the thing that kept the poor man out of enlightenment of heaven. The rich man, he was so attached to his possessions that he would die and have many lifetimes of going through hell, and that was what Krishna wanted to teach Arjuna. Do y'all get the message? Or is that one of those duh, huh? See, Krishna was looking at something called, what are you attached to? What do you value? Okay? What is that you think that is so important? for the rich man, his possessions, he had to have it all for himself. Okay, the who he thought he was. Okay, he had to, I'm going to eat all, I'm greedy, I'm going to eat all this food, the lobster and steak and whatever, and I'm going to have me the nice, all for me, And the poor man was basically saying, I'm willing to give it up. Okay, I'm willing to give up all my, here you can have my food, you can have this. Now look and see what you are attached to. Okay, in the T's we were saying, your house, most of us have something, we're someplace where we live, or we have a car, or you have your clothes, or whatever. Well, that's pretty obvious that you said, well, yeah, I'm attached to it. Now, does this mean that you have to take vows of poverty? Or does this mean that, you cannot own anything? No, it doesn't mean that, okay? We are looking at your psychological attachments, what you think that you need that defines you. You got it?
Well, even if I keep going back to this board, it's like being attached to the human identity.
Okay.
And I see throughout this discussion that of who am I, that the years that I've been coming, it's like before I started this inquiry, I was very much attached to that human identity. And everything that was happening out there was all about supporting that identity, or I needed to do something to make that human better. But with the discussion of the source of God's identity, that I can not be so attached to the human identity, that isn't who I am. It's like I can give verbiage to that's not who I am. That who I am is God, as identified as all, identified as love, identified as the self. But I still notice how that human, the body, the requirements of the body, my thoughts, they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but not to be attached to that human identity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the freedom of not being attached to the human identity and noticing that it still shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up on Gloria's point, this thing is a lack machine.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we want to become unattached to something, because we're in this form, we have to be, there's limitation and lack because we're in the physicality. But the source of God's identity is all. So there's nothing missing, nothing lacking. It's everything. There's no attachment to anything because it is everything. But the fact that we are or identify as humans, there's always going to be something that we need, that we're going to be attached to, that's going to be missing. It's always going to be there. And even in the recognition of our higher self, of our divinity, of our Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, you're only going to get moments of that. You're never going to get that fullness of what that allness really feels like.
Right.
So what I heard in the story you just told us was that this past weekend you had a workshop called Is the World Crazy or Is It Just Me? And one of the questions that we had in the workshop and one of the exercises was particularly about being attached to something. And when you said, would you give up all attachments to your beliefs to know the truth? And Lydia and I were in the same group, and we did this exercise together with another person there, not to mention his name off camera. But we were the only two that said, yeah, we'll give up all our beliefs if it means that we could discover truth. And the other gentleman said, no, he can't do that. He'd rather be like in the Matrix. He'd rather come out of the real world and eat the steak, right?
Yeah, like Cypher.
Yeah, like Cypher.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the conundrum. And in that story, you know, the Hindus always had this thing about being attached to what God would not be attached to. And since material things are things that God would not be attached to. They always looked at it as karma, like what goes around comes around. So if he actually gave up his wealth, then he would gain the truth. And I think that's what you meant at the end when he gave up that cow. He would find out what the truth is because he was attached to some belief.
Okay.
Dr. Gloria, I think that a lot to do with the attachment has been the conditioning from birth of that these material things is what serve us. On the contrary, it's wrong. That attachment and selfishness are what kept us in prison for life. If we don't have that awareness to see that these attachments and the selfishness, then we can actually free ourselves.
Yeah.
Then does that mean that what makes us human is attachments?
Yes. Yeah. It's like you came out of Ruth Carter. So did I. Yeah.
At different times.
Yeah, different times, okay? Yeah, we're not twins, okay? That's for sure, all right? But the thing, though, is when a child is born, there's this identification automatically with a body, okay? If as soon as a child comes out of the womb, all right, if Dr. Donaldson, who delivered both of us, had done this with you, Joan, that would be a startle reflex, okay? The identification with the body. And then what happened was, automatically, I wanted something called outside of myself. I wanted air, I wanted food, I wanted touch with my mother, with Ruth Carter, and so forth, okay? And I'm assuming, that mama just grabbed me and held me like most mamas do, okay? And that attachment to Ruth Carter began and set the foundation for other attachments. That's basic psychological theory, okay? But what that underscores is that I am limited, like Sharon was saying. I am limited, and there's something outside of me that I will put a value to and say it's important. I said Ruth Carter was important to me, okay? And I thought my even survival was dependent upon Ruth Carter because I was identifying as a body. As a little born baby who was just minutes old, okay, I was totally dependent upon something outside of me. That's the program. That's how it's set up for, as Gloria was saying, this human identity. And I think that this is me, this mind that I say is mine.
We as a species are beginning to come to grips with the fact that the universe is a very populated space that we're a part of, that we're not the only entity that's here. And I kind of tend to see this from a universal perspective. Anytime that you show up in manifestation, it's going to be lack because you can't be separate from all, but let's just pretend like you can. This notion of being separate from all, quotes, creates that lack. So what's a good resting point with this? Because we can't get away from it because we're all manifested, so we think. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're doing it now by questioning the reality of it. You're questioning, this is why we're here. Carol had a experience Friday night, and she shared it with us, on the workshop on Saturday. Carol, would you feel comfortable sharing what happened for you on Friday, just 3 or 4 days ago?
Yes, I've been one to have lucid dreams, and a lucid dream is when you are aware that you're dreaming. And so Friday night, this dream was lucid, but it was very different. And the fact that I realized in the dream that I was the director, the producer. I was everything in that dream. I was even in the dream. And I put words in the other person's mouth as to what to say. And the inflection given, how to say it, and it was just kind of an eye-opener for me to realize that I was making all of it up. And it was a dream, it was not real. But I was just aware that I was dreaming and what I was doing inside the dream.
Exactly. See, this is what, you're saying, how can, this is now beginning to occur, for Carol. She's seeing something called this Carol in the dream, and then there's a Carol who's aware of the dream, and this Carol who's aware of the Carol in the dream and the other characters in the dream, that she is creating it all. Okay? Now that is, and that was so perfect for our workshop, because we were saying, am I crazy? Now, if you go, out and tell the world that, and I appreciate Carol's, and Carol's not crazy, y'all. Okay? I would not write a 1013 on her, all right? She's obviously, she's saner than me, really, okay? That ain't saying much, but, but what we have to do is question what we think is real. I mean, we still participate in it, but we automatically assume that this is real. This is the reality, okay? And you go to church, or you go to your therapist, or you go, you turn on CNN, all right, or whatever, and CNN will tell you Donald Trump is crazy. Well, that's kind of true, okay? But anyway, but in other words, you would think there's a world out there that's separate from you, okay? You would think that, Donald Trump is in, D.C., and you're here in Atlanta, Georgia, and you can't see what's going on in D.C., so forth and so on, okay? And we call that real. Psychologists even have something called, you have to pass a mental status. If you don't say that that's real, we'll send you off to Georgia Regional somewhere, okay? But see, what Carol is experiencing, she's getting distance, and she's realizing that, oh, I wonder if this is all a dream, okay? That Carol who was aware of a Carol in a dream. Okay, Sharon has had the experience of when she, quote, died, right, Sharon? And she saw a Sharon who was, I think, in the operation table, right? So it's like, now what's real? And that's what we're here to ask. What is true? What is real? Okay, and we are attached to that this is the reality. See, this is what, you're saying, you're asking the question by here.
Yeah, what's a good perspective to aim for?
Well, kind of like what Carol was sharing. I mean, now, Carol didn't try, I assume, that when you went to bed Friday night, you didn't say, I'm going to have a lucid dream. It just happened for her, okay? I have never experienced a lucid dream. I don't know if anybody else here has. Has anybody? Okay, but, what we are doing now, in a sense, is we are trying to question, is this the reality? Am I just who I think I am? Am I just Alan Carter, a black man from Huntsville, Alabama, excuse me, Joe, Norma, Alabama, okay? Went to Morehouse, yada, yada, here's my resume, or whatever, okay? Is that who I am? Because if that's who I am, then I can never know what this is, okay? See, I got to have a God separate from me. Look at the church you were raised in. You were probably raised, what, Baptist or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You went there and they were saying, you are whoever you are, come to church, get your blessings, do the right thing, and then you may or may not go to heaven and be with, God or Jesus or so forth. As if God is separate from you, Jesus is separate from you, this you who you think you are. Unless you're asking if that's the truth, you're caught in this dream called what we call human.
In Carol's lucid dream, that was an experience that she is relating to all of us. But it still isn't God's idea. It still isn't that.
Right.
So it's like, from this viewpoint, I can never get what all is,
right,
what infinity is.
Right.
I can get glimpses of it, Or can I get glimpses?
Well, yeah, you know, you can have little flashes or whatever, okay? But see, if you ever think or see anybody call another, in other words, I'm seeing Gloria, Carol, or Raphael, okay? I said, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's a you, okay? I am below this line here. I'm a human. And that's what humans do. Humans see, I think there are 8 billion other humans on this planet, okay? God can't know 8 billion humans separate from him. Did you follow?
What if, with that same example, if you see that you see yourself here, that you see yourself here, you see yourself here. Is that closer to the
That's
God's
closer, but that's
identity,
still
but
in
it's
it.
still not it?
Because you're talking about it,
Right.
okay? Yeah, Bahia and then Brian.
I had an experience from a different perspective this weekend. I was out and about, and something didn't happen, so I rearranged my schedule, and I had the opportunity to go back home or do something different. I decided to do something different. I wound up at a department store, and I overheard a conversation where this lady was about to buy a Pushmore, and it was going to cost her $79 to get it home. So I went to her and I said, "Can you rent a truck? That would be much cheaper." And she says, "No, I can't." And so I stood there and I looked at the size of the box. I drive a convertible. So I said, "Okay, I can give you a ride home. Do you live close?" And she said, "Yes, I do. I just live right around the corner." She didn't live right around the corner. So, so we put the box in my convertible, and I started talking with her. And she said, "I prayed that somebody would help me today." That gave me a very expanded understanding of all, that it just didn't exist in one spot. I was the person who made that decision to be there, overhear this conversation, and I'm kind of strange because I'll help just about anybody, and I offered to help her. That's exactly what she asked for in her prayer. Now, who answered it, I'm not sure, but it tapped me into this expanded reality of things that were bigger than me and her, and it was alive and it was conscious. And I didn't have conversation with her about it. I just listened to what she said.
Okay, well, you have to be somewhat careful about answered prayers. Because, I was raised, in the Methodist church and then became Baptist, and there was a lot of emphasis on prayer. Okay, that God answers prayer. Well, God, get rid of Donald Trump. Now, I pray. Well, I mean, I doubt that that's going to happen right now, unless Mueller. Well, anyway, won't go there. But, I mean, I could pray for anything. Okay, it looks like some prayers are answered and some prayers aren't. Now, how are you going to change all? How are you going to get all to do something for you? Okay?
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's some kind of mechanism out there that does hear when we pray. And I can't explain it, but it's there.
Okay, Gloria.
So your story reminds me of a story that was told yesterday at Sharon's church. And it's about being love versus trying to do it and figure it out. To me, that's what the message was. And so it's like what I'm hearing Bahia say is that it's like she offered this woman help. She offered to help the lady. And it was like, that was just you being love. And the story from yesterday was this young girl was witnessing, she was on the bus and she was witnessing a homeless guy getting harassed and going to get beat up. And she stood up and said, "No, leave him alone." And that was, to me, that was like being love.
Yeah,
Instead of being fear, or instead of being all the considerations of, I don't even know this woman, I shouldn't be asking her. It's like just being that.
Yeah, see, we have to put things within this context. As a human thinking machine, I have to put something within the context of cause and effect. Okay, and so therefore, I would say A cause B. I could kick you in the shin, and you go, ouch, 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 or whatever. Okay, so my kicking you in the shin was the cause of you going, ouch. Okay, now we said God is an original cause. We even make him a creator. Okay, and we keep looking for the effect, an answered prayer or whatever. And that's time-based. Cause comes before effect, okay? As you get closer to, and this is, our analogy of Chattanooga, okay? It appears that, like we say, Hitler is 100 miles from Chattanooga, and Jesus might have been 10 feet from Chattanooga. Chattanooga being, let's call it nirvana, heaven, or whatever you want to call it, okay? Enlightenment or whatever. As you get closer, it appears that things can happen that we can't quite explain. Yeah. They are outside of our ability of our normal cause and effect. Even science tries to explain cause and effect. And you may even call it miracle, a miraculous experience. And you're going to attribute it to something, to some cause, okay? Well, that's okay if you want to do that. I mean, if you want to pray, pray. Okay, and you might get results. You might feel better, or you might find that you get something called money to pay your rent or whatever. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, be careful about how you attribute the cause of that. Okay, because there's a you who's trying to understand it and explain it. Okay, I got 30 seconds left.
Okay, but aren't those? I mean, in this vernacular called speech, and this, isn't that those two examples like an experience of now, and the explanation of it is the cause and effect. We want to give it an explanation, but it's like just a moment of nowness.
Yeah, but who's
And
experiencing?
now it's love. Well, it's like, yeah, I'm saying as a human, because we're talking about it, it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I am
it's getting
experiencing.
closer. But anytime,
Closer.
anytime you have an
Closer.
experience, okay, the you who's having that experience is not it,
Right.
okay? And yes, there are, seemingly miraculous things that can appear to happen. It appears that Jesus can walk on water. It appears that he can, feed with a couple of fish and a loaf of bread, or whatever we call miracles. And I don't doubt that those things happen, okay? Or could happen, all right? Because they're beyond our normal way of what we experience as reality, okay? And I just experienced a reality that says, wind this up, okay? So we'll stop right here, and we will pick up and see about, what is it that you are attached to? What is it that you think that's so important? And what is it that, you may have to give up to see the Lord, okay? Thank you.